What? Dynatrace can do that with OpenTelemetry? No way. Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of Dynatrace Can Do That with OpenTelemetry. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have Mikko. Hey, Mikko.
Hi, Adriana.
Thank you for coming. And can you briefly introduce yourself?
All right, so I'm Mikko Viitanen and working as a product manager at Dynatrace, focusing on the OpenTelemetry and OpenTelemetry ingest and OTel collectors and such.
Awesome. And today we have a cool topic. We are talking about a brand new extension for Dynatrace called the OTel Host Monitoring extension, correct?
Yes, that's true. So it's really interesting. We are seeing more customers who would like to use standard OTel collectors to monitor their hosts, and that's why we talk about this feature now. So really excited.
Excellent. And you're going to guide me through today.
Yes, I will. And maybe before that one, maybe I can little bit explain. So what is this feature all about? So it's about, you can, as I said, with the standard OpenTelemetry, you can monitor your hosts and processes and get them visualized in Dynatrace. So you get out of the box charts and key metrics and alert templates and basically, so what we also, how we have approached it, that you can use any standard OTel collector. So of course you can use Dynatrace OTel collector, but you can also use the OTel call contrib and or the Kubernetes version, so distributions from the OTel project, and you can also build your own collector. And the requirements are just that you need to have the normal host metrics receiver to fetch all the needed metrics from your hosts. And then you need the resource detection processor to enrich the data in a way that Dynatrace can correlate it correctly. And one more thing to note, that this feature is currently in early access, so further improvements are coming, but I'll show you what you can do today with it. So
Yay, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited. I played a little bit with it, but I think you got your you got a little more hands-on time than I did. So I'm excited to see what you can show us.
all right, so I'll just show how I did to deploy the collector. So I just downloaded the Dynatrace OTel Collector, the latest version, and installed it as a systemd service on the host. So now we are talking about the host monitoring for bare metal nodes or VMs and such. And so just now we have I already did it. So I have the Dynatrace collector running as a systemd service. Then what I did, I stored the Dynatrace API token and the endpoint as environment variables, and then check the collector configuration location. So where the system defines it when starting the collector, and basically then just started the OTel collector. But I'll show, here was the configuration part. So what do you need for host monitoring? So here we have the interesting part is in the host metrics. And what we actually did, we little bit optimized the metrics amount and data points, so that we only, with this configuration, which we share in our GitHub repo, and kind of we call it the reference configuration. So it's an optimized, and it won't send anything unnecessary, only the key metrics that you need. And we also adjusted the sending, the collection interval. So we are actually using the host metrics with 3 different collection intervals, and the first one is the shortest, and every minute we send the most important metrics. So we have the CPU metrics to get the CPU utilization, and this one is often considered, for example, a trigger for alerts. So that's why it's sent often, and the same for memory, so the basic memory utilization, so that you know if the host is getting out of memory, and then the 1 minute load average. And then the second group, it's about the 5 minute interval, and most metrics we have included in this basket. So we have some more CPU and memory metrics collected, then the paging, networking, and then some more average load metrics for longer intervals, and then the disk and file system and processes. And actually the process metrics are something that accumulate then when you run 300 processes. You get the same metrics for all your processes, and that's why this actually become a big number in terms of how many metrics you get. So, so it could be that half of your host metrics are actually process metrics, or more than half, and that's why we are now sending them every 5 minutes to get a good view of what's happening with your processes, but users can adjust them as they like. But yeah, so that's this one, and then we have the last bucket. We send every hour these kind of metrics, like how much there's memory on the host in total, and for example the core counts, and to get the understanding of the host, but these things rarely change. And then the uptime, of course, so they are fine to send every hour based on our tests. So that's the key part of the host metrics collection. Then what we also have in the reference config, we filter and drop some of the unnecessary dimensions from the metric. So we do some further optimization to avoid the cardinality issue with the metrics, and just send what we need. So I will not go through all these rules, but they are there to optimize the output. And then then we have batching and cumulative to delta. But the second key part is here in the resource detection. So here we are basically defining that for each of the host metrics we enrich with the host details, we enrich with the host identity. This is really important when you run 100 hosts, that you can easily pinpoint each of the metrics to the right host. And then some operating system details. But that's about the collector config, and yeah, this is how it looks like in the pipeline. So I have all 3 host metrics receivers configured, and then the processors that I quickly showed. And this is the metrics pipeline. Yeah, traces and logs I'm not really using in this case, but consider that I'm running also some applications on the same host or a different host, but I can transfer the telemetry to via this collector and enrich with the same host details. So then we can easily correlate the services and application telemetry to this host.
Right. So yeah, so this ensures that correlation at the end of the day.
Yeah. Right. And at the end, I also running the collector self-monitoring to get the collector metrics of the received and exported metrics, for example, and also running the logs as an internal telemetry. But yeah, that's about the setup.
Awesome. So just to summarize, like the metrics intervals that you're running things at, you've got the 1, the 5, the 1 minute, 5 minute, 1 hour. For each of those, you are basically capturing different metrics at those intervals, and
Yeah.
then I guess we'll get to see what that stuff translates to in Dynatrace when we when we run the app and see it in Dynatrace, right?
Yes, and I think we could check that one next. And
Awesome. I'm excited.
all right, so then we have Infra and Operations app here in Dynatrace, which now integrates the OpenTelemetry entities, and we see the host entities and processes. I have more than 200 here in this tenant, but let's see what we have in the host section. So I open one, and first of all we get the properties of the operating system and host details here, and then we have all the host metrics. This host, I don't have much load ongoing, so it's nearly 0% CPU usage, but you get all the standard CPU metrics here. Same for the memory. You get everything that are the key parts of the hotel provided host metrics. Then we have networking and disk and so on. I'll explain the processes later, but yeah, also we are showing the uptime that my host has been running nearly a week now before restarts, and then also the host logs. So yeah, this is interesting. You can get if the operating system has some warnings or some of the services running on the host. You can get also the host logs in the same view.
So just on the logs, if we run query, what just to get an idea for some of the logs.
At the moment, I have one example application running in this host, and then I'm also
Mhm.
collecting the internal logs from the collector.
So
So
we'll
yeah,
see both of those here essentially, which is really cool.
yeah, and both are now connected to this host, so they appear anywhere, and also in the log app, you can then correlate them to a specific host, then which is nice.
And we should be able to also see, like, for example, the stopping roll counter. Would we be able to see like an associated trace?
Yes, we can also do that one, and that one I think we can, if we go to the logs app then and run the query, we should be able to get the trace. Yes, here we see now this specific log with all the details, and we can also open the corresponding trace, and now we are going to the distributed traces app then, which
Ooh,
visualizes and covers everything in
that's
this
very cool.
this trace.
Yeah, I like to see all that correlation. I think that's magical.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And then yeah, what I didn't show yet is the processes view.
Mhm.
So we have the process count, the exact moment, how many processes I have, and and then the process creation. But I can also look at here the top processes, basically what I'm running, and sort them by CPU and memory. And for example, if I now try to see which of my processes consume most memory, I can see that I have Java here on the top. And now by clicking here, I navigate to the processes section. So basically
Mhm.
now I can look at the process specific metrics provided by
Right.
the OTel Collector, and yeah, the memory was high, so I can see actually if it's trending somewhere or what's happening here. Yeah, I can see it's taking more than half a gig of memory, but seems to be quite stable in this time
Right.
frame.
That's cool.
And then in the disk and IO side, so we can see that that I don't see any telemetry here, and it says that if you want to see disk and IO metrics, you must ensure that you are running privileged access. So the certain limited metrics actually require you to have root access um, for the collector. But I would say that you get like 95% of the benefit just when when running the collector as a user, as I'm doing now. So then it's much more secure in this way, and I basically get all the host level details and even most of the process level topics available without running root, but the disk process level disk metrics and IO requires more permissions.
Got it. Got it. So to do that, as you said, you would have to run your collector as root, not as
Yeah, yeah,
not under your specific user.
yeah. So
Gotcha.
that's about it. And then, yeah, what I didn't yet explain. So this is how it looks like, but let's go to the hub where we see the actual extension here, what you need to also enable.
Yes.
So we go
That
to
was going to be my question, so I'm glad. I'm glad.
the host monitoring section, and as you can see, we have other types of host monitoring as well available. But now what I showed was the OTel Host Monitoring, and there, if we scroll a little bit down, we see how to get started. So there are two steps needed. Set up your OTel Collector with this configuration, and this is the reference configuration I was showing, and it's available in our GitHub. I'll also open it up here, so under the Dynatrace Collector. But the same configuration can be used with any other standard collector, so it's nothing Dynatrace specific there.
Oh, and I can vouch for that because when I played around with it, I was just using the collector contrib. So
Yes, good. And then, yeah, then the second step, you need to activate this extension. So, so the extension, I have already installed it, and I think it said that this is installed on my tenant. Yes, here. But if
mhm.
it's not yet available, you have an install button, and you activate the OTel extension, and then you set up your collector to send telemetry to Dynatrace, and that's it. That's what you need to do, and you get your host visible.
Yeah, this is pretty cool too because it is a purely OTel native solution. Your collector configuration is OTel native, so you're not even using any like components that would be specific to Dynatrace. These are collector components that are available as part of contrib that are vendor neutral, shall we say. And then the only thing that you have to do then is to activate the extension to make sure you have it on your Dynatrace tenant, because otherwise it won't work.
Yeah. As I said, it's early access, so it's available right away, but we are developing and adding more features and adding um, some enhancements. But yeah, all the feedback is really welcome.
What's the best way to submit feedback?
Um, yeah, I would say the Dynatrace community. That's a great way for Dynatrace customers. Everyone can open a topic there, or even request a enhancement for this feature or another feature. So that's at least a great way. And of course, then we are the support channels. So yeah.
Awesome. And Dynatrace community, for folks who might not be familiar, just go to community.dynatrace.com, and I'll include that also in the show notes for reference. I think it's very important for folks to know what feedback channel they can use. I think one of the things that's exciting about playing around with things that are early access is you get to see things as they evolve. Um, And then, if you see something that doesn't work quite the way you expected, I think it's also an opportunity to suggest improvements, which I think is really cool. So, and actually, another question for you, because you said it's early access. What does that mean, early access? Does that mean that anyone with a Dynatrace account can install this extension?
Yes, it's
Okay.
available for everyone, but we haven't stated it's in the GA level yet, and based on the feedback, some improvements made. So yeah, but definitely try out, and it's all available.
Awesome. Well, this was a great overview. Thank you, Mikko. Very much looking forward to seeing how this extension evolves in the future. But I think it's really exciting to be able to have that host monitoring capability, OTel native host monitoring capability with Dynatrace. And folks, stay tuned for the next episode.